Rebecca Collins, she's an artist, critic of art in general. And David Sardeño, you already know from the last week lectures. And they are doing a combined presentation, and they are going to tell us about the boundary, the improbable boundary where art meets science and fundamental physics. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Welcome everybody. Thank you, Jorge, thank you, Carlos and Hector for inviting us here, and also thank you for organizing this session and this whole week, and thank you for coming. I've enjoyed meeting some of you this week and hearing about your research, so it's exciting to be here and to be sharing this presentation. So we're going to just kind of start by giving a mild introduction to ourselves, and then we'll tell you a bit more about what's going to happen in the next minutes. So yes, I'm Dr. Rebecca Collins from Edinburgh College of Art, University of Edinburgh, Scotland, where it's very cold and dark right now. And I principally work on artistic research, which is something I'm going to describe a little bit what it is in the following slides, because it's something most people don't know much about, including some people who I work with. So that's going to be a good excuse to talk a bit more about what that is. And generally in my work, I'm interested in how through artistic practice and artistic processes you can bring people together for unlikely encounters, to create spontaneous communities, and to ask questions, sometimes difficult questions, and also how to use art as a vehicle for thinking. And in this particular project that I'll be talking a bit more about later, Parameters for Understanding Uncertainty, I'm particularly interested in how particle physics can meet artistic research, and what that might create, and how that can offer something in terms of unconventional outreach to encounter different types of audiences. So this image actually was by an artist called Yves Barlier, a really brilliant illustrator who has worked with Jorge and continues to work with Jorge in terms of illustrating scientific impossibilities. And this image I really like because it somehow encapsulates what I try to do in my work, which is often kind of summoning things from books, from people, from places. And I think that she captured it quite well in this image that she took of me, that she drew of me in a workshop this summer, which we'll be hearing a bit more about later on as well.
Very good. And well, you've already seen me a couple of times, I think, or probably even 3. I'm David Cerdeño, and I'm mostly working, as you know, on particle physics and astroparticle physics. Okay, so I'm a theoretician most of the times, and I got involved in these projects through an initiative and conversations that we've been having already for many years, which probably crystallized in this project, no, that Rebecca is mentioning, no, Parameters for Understanding Uncertainty. My initial interest in this project was to try to find ways to communicate science in, well, now we are describing it as unconventional ways, but I would say more general ways than just a public talk or a mere representation. Okay, so to me this has also been a voyage, a travel in thinking that I was doing outreach and realizing that maybe at some point we were doing artistic research. Okay, so again, but I'm coming from the side of the science in this case.
Great. So as our project is ongoing throughout this year and hopefully beyond this year, we're treating this session today as well as kind of part of our probing process, taking advantage that you are all here and you all have various types of expertise in relation to scientific outreach. Maybe you've been involved in some different types of activities, or the night of the investigator, or even having a coffee with somebody's grandmother when you've told them a little bit about what it is that you do. So all of these types of different ways that you put your research in contact with other publics. And so later on, we're actually going to be asking you some questions in the format of a quiz. It's not it's not an exam, it's a quiz, and there's the chance to win a badge.
There's more than one.
But they're limited, and these are the final ones. So for enthusiastic participation, badges will be available. So you can continue to probe uncertainty with us until the end of time, if it allows. But just to give a short outline, I'm going to talk a little bit about what artistic research is. So here we go. The slide is here. This is a short and incomplete history of artistic research. It's quite a complex thing to give a full overview, and I've tried to put Norway in as short amount of times as possible, but Norway is kind of a big player on the artistic research scene. But in the 1980s, around the mid-1980s, is when it began to be used as a term within the United Kingdom. But because always when you give something a name, people want to challenge it and change it. In the UK, they prefer to describe it as practice-based research or practice-led research. And the last kind of 20 or 40 years have been about battles about what to call it, but I prefer to use artistic research, which is the name more commonly used across Europe. And then, as you can see, in 1995 in Norway, they decided to make it a law that artistic research is equivalent to scientific research, which is already a kind of a big deal, that this is not established in all European countries, or indeed in all countries. And then really it was through kind of PhD programs and the establishment of different types of PhDs. You see China is getting involved kind of early on. And then there's the European Society for Artistic Research, which formed in 2010, and actually they also host a research catalogue for artistic research and has a kind of annual conference and journals, because often within arts and humanities we have so many journals and so many types of ways of sharing information and research that it's quite hard. So this has been a great initiative. And then, as you see, Norway continues to kind of establish artistic research as a very kind of fixed thing, so people can stop being paranoid about it existing or not. And more recently, there's been some developments in the University of Johannesburg, bringing artistic research into their teaching and pedagogical programs, also as a kind of way to decolonize their curriculum, because one thing that artistic research does is to think across disciplines, specific kind of categories, and try to ask questions about why those classifications are there, and can we have a more porous way of thinking and looking for knowledge together. So I think that's kind of an important one. But what is artistic research? What are you talking about? This is a really tricky question, and if I was in front of my peers, I probably wouldn't even bring this question out, because this would cause all kinds of fights. People prefer things like, how is artistic research, or what does it do, and things like that. But I'm going to try to give a definition to something that is really resisting a definition, and then later on we'll give you some more kind of examples that might make it a little bit clearer. But ultimately, it's driven by questions that cut across disciplinary divides. So already asking questions from artistic research into different areas of knowledge is kind of very welcome and encouraged. It's a field in constant development and resists a definition. So the minute you define it, people want to define it in another way. It's an area of thinking and doing. Doing is the really kind of crucial part, the kind of practicing. Is really important. Each artistic research project is unique and unravels as it goes, so it's often about finding ways to ask questions in relation to where you are situated, so in specific geographies. Sometimes there are kind of local aspects to it, but then the projects can reach kind of beyond that, and it demands ongoing attention to the very forms of its investigation. So it's something that continues to be kind of paranoid in the way that it operates. How does artistic research take place? So I've given just some very basic examples, but these can be the possibilities are kind of numerous, so kind of spending time listening, working with people from different communities or different academic disciplines, different areas, different geographies, interviewing, noticing situations, so it can have elements of ethnography or ethnography, collecting images, so there's some pictures of animals feed there, and I didn't mention animals, but maybe animals could be involved, but collecting objects, sounds, film, performance, text. It could involve visiting archives, museums, and specific sites. Can you move to the next slide? Thank you. How does it take place? So the types of activities, the types of methods that might be involved in artistic research include reading, different types of text, which might be academic, non-academic, fiction, non-fiction, organizing encounters and workshops, one of which I'll give you an example of later. Also writing texts, so artistic researchers are involved in writing academic and non-academic texts, or sometimes also fiction. A novel could be a way of putting your research in contact, and intervening in situations and contexts and in institutions, and I'll give an example of that a little bit later on as well. So what are the outputs of artistic research? So this may take the form of an object, a painting, a performance, a text, a piece of music, but equally it might not, or it might do all of those things. So again, part of it is that it needs to ask the questions of what is the right format or form that this work takes. But it also, I think one of the things I've been thinking about more recently is that actually sometimes the forms and formats and the how of its operating is almost more interesting, because obviously when you start to tell something, the way that you're telling it always changes what it was. So I've been thinking about that kind of recently. And so yeah, thinking of form as not something that's solid, but as like the possibility of relationships. And I feel like I really lived that this summer in the workshop situation that I'll show a short video clip of later. But it might be thought of as a frame or a lens for bringing people together around a specific set of concerns that also might make them see different ways, imagine different possibilities for the way they can interact. So this for me is kind of its political potential in a way. Continuing with the idea of what the output is, so it can relate to a specific site where something has taken place, so this is called site-specific research, so this might mean that it takes place in a particular building or in a particular locale, so in relation to a coastline or in relation to a physics institute, in my case, who is involved, so again, thinking about the community and the kind of actors, if you like, and how the research is organized, so how the structure is operating. How is knowledge operating? So we're thinking a lot about this idea of sensuous knowledge, which might sound a bit odd to you, but it's thinking about how you might think through feeling or through intuition or through embodied experiences. And in my case in particularly in relation to sound, and we'll talk a bit more about that as we go along, but also thinking about putting objects and texts and different textures in contact that might not normally come into contact, and also thinking about unpredictability. So you might not necessarily be able to predetermine what happens when you put something into motion. So there's a kind of essence there of not knowing or uncertainty, which I'm also particularly interested in thinking about in relation to physics research, or what I can understand of it. But it's fair to say that, so this is just a very broad, very quick summary of what is quite a complex and dense field, but hopefully that gives you some idea of where I come from, where I stand.
I think possibly also through some examples we can get to see what these kind of interactions can do, and actually part of the project is also seeing what's being done within the context of collaborations between artistic and scientific research, and I think we have some examples that may or may not help us think together what is this and where is this going, all right? One of the first examples that we've chosen is the following. Okay, it's a project by Artemis Maria Iotti that was presented in Vienna in 2015. And in this case, the artist was taking data directly from XMM Newton, and they were interpreting those data in a way that was played by automated pianos. Okay, I like this example because it is quite characteristic of one particular way of interacting between science and artists. Okay, in which the data that we are obtaining in science is reinterpreted or translated or put in a context by an artistic piece. Okay, in this case, it was quite literally the data from the different clusters of observed by XMM. They were played by different pianos. The idea here is also that cluster, which for us it's an accumulation of stellar objects, that also works in piano. Okay, I'm not familiar with piano, by the way, so someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that also is a kind of, it describes the proximity also of certain notes when they're played in the piano. Okay, so they're playing together with this direct translation between a cluster of galaxies and a cluster of notes in the piano. Okay, and then they were taking data from the luminosity of these objects, and that is related to the speed at which these notes are being played. And the distance of the cluster is also related to the register of the piano clusters themselves. Okay, so all of this is a kind of representative way of introducing scientific data into arts. I know you're all very curious to see how this sounds, so I'm going to play a little bit of that. Okay. Each of these images, I'm playing it online, but I don't want to change the slide. Each of these images is a different soundscape. So I'm going to play another one just so you can see the difference. You can visit, actually, I'll have the link over there, so you can also do that yourselves.
I think it's fair to say that one of the things we liked about this example is that it's also giving something back kind of artistically. So it has the use of the scientific data, but also there's an element in there that you don't know exactly how it's operating, right?
That is true.
It's not
yeah.
necessarily
so there's
a direct...
part of this uncertainty of what's going to come out, and of course, even though there are underlying rules, maybe those rules are also not perceived by the audience. All right. So when reading about this piece, I think there was a sentence that struck me as probably debatable and something that we may open up for discussion later on, which is literally this one, which is by remaining true to the data while employing an artistic working method, the project contributes to the conceptual development of space for research that is shaped between arts and science. Okay. So here they were emphasizing that the data that they were taking from XMX was literally that data, and they were working actually with that. Yeah. Again, we can debate about that later, but to me a different take of this is also that that is not what the public is perceiving, or at least not all the public is perceiving any of that complexity. So it also makes me question whether that is actually necessary or not. Okay, and we will come to that question towards the end of the session, probably.
In the quiz.
In the quiz. Another example is actually how Rebecca and I started having these conversations, okay, which stems from, well, probably a bit earlier, but it certainly found a different place in 2017 when I was preparing a stand and a kind of experiment for the Royal Society Summer Exhibition in London. And this that you can see here, for those familiar with direct detection experiments, is a replica, real size, of the Super CDMS experiment that's now being deployed at SNOLAB. It doesn't have the shielding, but again, the crystals that I was showing, the germanium crystals, are essentially the correct size. Obviously, this is not a working experiment, but what we were trying to do there is to show, again, the general public how dark matter searches operate and how important, for example, is the concept of background noise reduction, simulation, and data taking. Okay? And what we did was actually we constructed this device that was taking a background model from the detector simulator done with Gian4 of Super CDMS and was feeding it to these crystals that were blinking in red whenever a background signal was detected. Simultaneously, we also hit a dark matter signal in blue that was based on theoretical calculations from effective field theories. And the objective of the public was to modify the experimental parameters, which they could do with some dials here, where they could bring the experiment underground, put some shielding around it, improve the cleanliness of the actual experiment, and increase the size of the detector. And the goal was to an experiment which, if you put on top of the table, would be only detecting background noise, was to clean it up and then understand finally that the dark matter signal could only happen when all of this was taking place. The experiment also operated in real time, which means that, again, when the experiment was very clean, it was essentially not doing anything. But we had a time warp button which could compress 5 years into 1 minute. I'm bringing this example in here because our goal initially was also to make something that was using real data in a very similar kind of analogy to the previous piece. And we were only, again, we realized afterwards that the level of this course could be very different to different levels of public. So this allowed us to address public that was very specialized by explaining to them what was actually behind all of this, but also motivate people who didn't have any interest whatsoever in this field to begin with. Okay?
Yeah, and I, as a member of the public, encountering this, I thought this is incredible. There are physicists doing artistic research. And I was very intrigued also by, as an audience member or kind of attendee of this, that you could select the parameters of kind of uncertainty in order to decide how long you wanted to run the experiment for, at what depth, what type of cladding the experiment would have. And so there were ways of adjusting what you might find out. Of course, I was expecting to encounter dark matter when I was trying this out, and that obviously didn't happen, but was a good incentive.
Just to tell you the level at which we went to making this kind of rigorous, if you want, okay? And that word, again, might be something that we want to debate later on, okay?
In the quiz.
In the quiz. We even reconstructed data in situ, assuming an observation with a code that we were developing and that we published a couple of months afterwards, okay? So we were very proud to say that there was science afterwards. And I was originally only seeing this as a kind of outreach, and it was only through our conversations that we realized that this might also work as a kind of artistic, even an artistic piece, okay? I wanted to show you a little bit more of how this operated, okay? Just because...
Sensitive experiments. One example of such an experiment is Super CDMS,
you can see here,
of which we have
only
a model
detecting background,
where the white plastic discs represent and are the same size as the metallic crystals that will be used. Super CDMS will begin collecting data in Canada in the early 2020s, and it is sensitive enough to detect one nucleus recoiling after a dark matter particle has hit it, due to the vibrations this causes in the germanium crystal lattice. In order to be this sensitive, Super CDMS must be kept at chilly -273 degrees Celsius. We can use computer simulations to model potential types of dark matter and design the experiment to increase our chances of a discovery. An added difficulty is that the vibrations can also be caused by normal matter. And since we aren't interested in these results, we call them background events.
And so that you can see what happens when we detect dark matter.
Now we just need to spend 5 years watching our experiment and count the blue flashes. Here we're lucky, and we can time warp through the 5 years and analyze our results. We still have background events in our detector, as we can't block out every single bit of radiation. We can again use computer simulations to tell us that an incoming particle interacting with an electron rather than a nucleus, interacting on the surface of the detector or interacting in more than one detector, is far more likely to be normal matter than
That was the dark matter.
Okay, so going back then to give the example of the project that I'm working on at the moment. So following on from these conversations with David, I began to develop this idea for doing a project together, which is the one that we're working on right now, funded by the Royal Society of Edinburgh. And these are the kind of 4 key research questions that we're currently working on. So the first one really is around are there overlaps between research processes in new physics and artistic investigation? So this was the one that really came from our conversation around 2017 and this piece that you just saw an example of. And then thinking about how artistic research can share new technological developments with diverse audiences. So perhaps there is an audience within art galleries who might be interested in this kind of work, so taking it out of the science festival, taking it out of the science museum and thinking about where are the other publics for this kind of work and who is not being reached by current scientific outreach models. Also thinking about what role sound art can play in sharing the ongoing mysteries of the universe. We talked a bit about that on last Friday in our public talk, but I'll show you some examples of how we've been exploring that with composers shortly, giving some short clips. And then the other question is around how the mundane and the extraordinary coexist within scientific institutions and the everyday activities of physicists, people who dedicate themselves to the study of new physics. So those are kind of my 4 key research questions. And then to investigate these 4 questions, I have a kind of series of methods that I'm using. And so the first one, this one around the extraordinary and the mundane, I have a daily practice. This is my lunchbox and my water bottle, where I go into the Institute for Theoretical Physics, which is in Madrid, the autonomous university, and I'm there attending lectures on dark matter, mainly the kind of very easy ones, or the ones that are more around the kind of qualitative aspects of dark matter. I'm also attending some other types of seminars and also having conversations with people. I've had kind of one-to-one tutorials with people who've presented themselves in my office and have told me about black holes or quantum theory. So I have a kind of everyday presence in the Institute for Theoretical Physics at the moment until the sort of middle of next year. The second aspect has been a series of interdisciplinary seminars, and I'll talk a bit more about those ones in a minute, but that's really been about putting artistic researchers in dialogue with physicists around a common topic, but that they approach from very different angles, so that you get to see the kind of tensions, but also sometimes the overlaps between ways of thinking and sharing thought. The third one has been a series of field visits to laboratories where they're using sound to detect dark matter. I'm not going to talk so much about that today, but I've been to the Canary Underground Laboratory in the Pyrenees to experience their cosmic silence. It's very noisy. And I've also been to Valencia to visit the acoustic Astroparticle Physics group there, who are using underwater hydrophones to listen in on dark matter, but have mainly only heard conversations between dolphins. The other part of the investigation has been a workshop for artists and physicists, where a series of compositions were shared, and also different types of ways of presenting research and interacting, which I'll be showing a short trailer for the forthcoming micro-documentary that's going to be released in December, around that. So these were there's 4 interdisciplinary seminars in total that I've been organizing, curating. There's been 3 so far, and there's another one in January the 13th, unlucky for some, but if any of you are in Madrid on that date, then please do come along. So the first one was around indeterminacy and uncertainty. So the uncertainty principle in relation to Heisenberg's work, and indeterminacy in the work of John Cage, who is an experimental composer, sort of quite prolific in the 1950s, and his influence on contemporary music has been quite, and avant-garde music has been quite fundamental. These are the videos that, so the sessions are then put online. The second one was around music and particles, or thinking about microphones, membranes, hydrophones. And these actually, I've been interested that in person, these have attracted around an audience of 60 people. So it's bringing different people to the Institute of Theoretical Physics who wouldn't normally arrive there. So there's been musicians arriving, there's been people who are art historians, curators. They've all been kind of coming to the building. And I've been, also one of the interventions that I've done is to then put the video documentation on the Institute for Theoretical Physics, their YouTube channel. So their YouTube channel has a huge amount of subscribers, something like 600,000. But these videos have had quite a lot of visits, considering it's not something that is expected to be on there. So this one has had about 10,000 views, which for an event of this kind is quite significant. And my favorite comment that's been posted so far was that it's pure avant-gardism, which I'm quite proud of. We're going to make some t-shirts. And this first one has had around 28,000 views. So this was the very first one that went up. And the comment has been that this is the downfall of science. So I was also quite proud of that in the space of about 3 months, I'd managed to bring down science. So
Congratulations.
So the next, the next part I was going to tell you about is the improbable encounters. So this was a way of putting I wanted to put a composer in touch with a physicist in order to make a new musical piece related to their research. So there were 3 in total. And they worked over a series of months, having a series of encounters and dialogues around what they might make with the composer, I think trying to understand some of the basic kind of concepts, and then finding a way to make that into a musical composition. So the first piece is called Uncertainty, and it was is based on the quantum world. And for this piece, I wanted to work with someone who's working in quite a classical way, because I was interested in how that might make a more kind of poetic gesture, and the piece might be easier to listen to than something that's more electroacoustic or experimental. So we're going to listen to about 2 minutes of that piece, so you can get an idea of what that sounds like. So there was a little bit of distortion on that there, but I think in general you get the sort of the sense of the style, and hopefully a little bit about what the composer was trying to do. But we can also discuss about that later. But yeah, it sounded a little bit more kind of punky than it is because of that distortion. But it's really meant to be quite a soothing kind of quite classical in the sort of piano, sensation. So then I'm going to move on to just describe the second piece, which we saw a video of on Friday, but in a moment I'll show you a small clip of this. So this was a piece about composing with dark matter, so with Oda Siganolaza and David Cerdeño, and the concept for this piece was also an installation work, also using electroacoustic music, sound art, and the idea really is that you listen to it on headphones. It's really a one-to-one piece, and this box here, it acts like a kind of prototype dark matter detector with sensors on the outside, so that as you're listening to it, you're also listening to any dark matter that might be coming into the box at the same time. And if you do this exercise, you can actually get to believe that you're really listening to dark matter, so there's a kind of imaginative leap there. We're going to put a small clip of that, hopefully.
Challenges for dark matter. Experimental detection. Does DM feel other interactions apart from gravity? Is the electroweak scale somehow related to DM? How is DM distributed? Determination of the DM particle parameters, mass, interaction, cross-section, etc. What is the theory for physics beyond DSM?
DM is a window for new physics.
Little bit of distortion on that one as well, but yeah. So this was also in a process with David and sharing some of his public talk material in order to help Ode to kind of navigate and think about how to transpose this into an artistic work. And I think that the first time that you listened to this, you had a very profound kind of expression.
So the way we worked with Ode was to, well, she was fascinated with this idea of the dark matter halo and has shared with her some numerical simulations that showed this granularity or substructure that dark matter halos exhibit. And she was also liking very much this idea of a physical object that could capture or be sensitive to dark matter, right? That's how she created this box, which, if you could see it, it was about this size, and you carry it while you're listening to the piece, all right? So when I first listened to the piece, I was listening, she just sent it to me on the computer, okay? I didn't have the actual device. But I was surprised to see that there were things in that piece that hadn't been an input from physics, if you want, okay? That she had, or that were informing me of how she was seeing this idea of the dark matter halo. Using that, also I tried to incorporate that in the way that I was describing dark matter halos in public talks, okay? So there was this exercise, this double exercise. What we wanted there was that there was a conversation between the physics and the arts, if you want, so that it was not only the arts serving as a vehicle to merely represent the physical aspects, okay? So this is a little bit in contrast to what I was showing before that was more representative, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third example was in relation to black holes, composing with black holes. So for this piece, I got in touch with a group who are working in kind of ambient music, who tend to use quite a lot of different kind of gadgets to make their work. And this, in its totality, is a 29-minute journey to a black hole. The physicist we were working with there is David Pereniguez Rodriguez, and that's Laura Marcos Mateos, who's the communications and media assistant at the IFT. And I'm going to show just a short clip from this work, just a 3-minute clip, because 29 minutes is quite long. But this is also filmed this summer in July, when we shared the piece for the first time in a workshop with physicists and artists. So I'm just going to put a 3-minute clip. So I certainly had the experience when listening to the piece over the 29 minutes that my kind of feet were getting kind of stretched and elongated through the room. But you can see that they're working with this data sample from LIGO that they're kind of using within the composition. So again, it's a kind of data sonification, but pushing it into a sort of whole artistic experience. And then I wanted to talk a little bit, before we get to the quiz, about this workshop that took place this July, which was for artists and physicists. There was a call out. We had an overwhelming response of about 40 people who wanted to apply and could only select 20 of those. So this was about putting research processes into contact with each other, of finding ways to look for common ground or to look for uncommon ground between the different ways of thinking across artistic research and research within physics. So we had a number of different types of exercises in the north of Spain in a place called Azala in the Basque Country. There is a full micro-documentary that will be released on the 13th of December on the Institute for Theoretical Physics, on Netflix, no, on YouTube, on the Institute for Theoretical Physics channel. But I have a short 3-minute trailer that I wanted to share with you. It's in Spanish with English subtitles, so if we could possibly dim the lights a little bit, we should be able to read the subtitles, but I think that the trailer speaks for itself.
¿Nos puedes bajar la luz un poquito? Perfecto.
Collins, soy artista investigadora y profesora de arte contemporáneo en la Universidad de Edimburgo. Este año estoy en España en residencia en el Instituto Físico Teórico dentro de la Universidad Autónoma de Madrid con un proyecto que se llama Parámetros para comprender la incertidumbre. So it's the wrong subtitles. Trato de buscar conexiones entre los procesos creativos de las artistas y los procesos de investigación de las personas trabajando, en este caso, en física teórica. We'll watch it anyway and then I'll tell you about it. La idea de ese proyecto en concreto viene desde hace 10 años atrás, cuando yo encontré a David G. Cerdeño.
Atención a tus propios pasos. Al sonido de tus pasos, es fantástico, hay que hacerlo siempre. Era un experimento para extender un poco, expandir lo que yo puedo comunicar o abarcar dentro de la física.
A mí se me generaba inquietudes de que yo veía la forma de hacer divulgación científica como algo performático y además algo artístico.
El tema, uno de los temas protagonistas ya desde el enunciado del taller, era la materia oscura, rodeada, lo hemos confirmado una vez más, de misterio, de incertidumbre. Bueno, todo eso se ha compartido, se ha celebrado, ¿no? Esa actitud también de curiosidad, ¿no? que solo nos puede impulsar ese misterio que en el fondo es la vida, y nos queda seguir sorprendiéndonos.
Ha sido una sinergia, ha sido cualitativo, de decir, bueno, hemos descubierto, a lo mejor hemos llegado a sitios en los cuales no podíamos llegar de manera individual.
A mí lo que me interesa es cómo estos diferentes formas de saber y estos contextos se pueden, son porosos al final, ¿no? Hay una porosidad y se pueden ir contaminando de algún modo, y eso me interesa muchísimo porque yo creo que hemos sido en algunos momentos demasiado rígidos con las formas de hacer, las formas de pensar, porque hay una curiosidad humana que nos acompaña durante toda la vida. En el fondo eso es un entrenamiento de la intuición, y la imaginación tiene una capacidad enorme. So we'll do a short summary in English of what was said. Apologies for that, there are 2 versions of the video and I've clearly picked the one with the Spanish subtitles, not the ones with the English subtitles. But ultimately it was describing this meeting between physicists and artists and finding ways to converse with each other in relation to the mysteries, the ongoing mysteries of the universe, and the importance of being able to share dialogue and to share ways of thinking through different research processes, and just really thinking about the capacity of the imagination and the capacity of human curiosity to find ways to meet and talk through these differences or congruences. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that was about it. Yeah. Do you know what that means?
You know what that means? Quiz time.
Okay, so now, as Rebecca was saying, okay, this is an ongoing project, okay, and part of this project is also relying on us probing some of the people or probing the uncertainty through some of the people, okay, and in this case, we're going to use you all as probes, at least for this limited amount of time of 30 minutes, and that period can be extended in the future if someone wants.
Chance to win a badge.
And there are some questions that have probably arisen in this talk, and maybe we want to come back to those, and we thought that it would be a good idea to do it through a quiz.
Yeah.
The quiz. So we're going to ask you to form groups. Unfortunately, we cannot do that individually, but I think that's more interesting.
Yeah, we think it's better to have a kind of group responsibility, and then there's more chances of winning a badge.
Exactly. And we've picked up some team names, so you don't have to do it. So this is going to be kind of, you like those, right? It's going to be kind of loose, so I would say that those, you cluster around those people that are around you, and we're going to need one mobile phone with internet connection.
Per group,
Per group, okay? I think there's a public Wi-Fi that I'm using from the museum that is working.
MCC public.
So if you want to cluster around some people, and we'll give you names.
Yeah, so groups of around
like
5.
One group of around 5, 6, anywhere between 5 to 8. Well, if you're quick, you can choose. Which one do you want? You. Lisa. Oh my God! Now the Lisa. Okay, don't fight. Don't fight. I think the lizards. Do you really want to be the lizards? No, you see what they. Okay. Listen. You want to be the lizards, right? They can have the lizards. Okay, you are the lizards. The Tenerife lizards over there. Behind them, we've got the Atlantic Canaries. Yeah. Right in front of them, you're the laurel pigeons. that mega cluster over there, all of that is a group, or is it two groups? One group? One big group deserves a big name, so you're going to be the pumice pipits. We've got the Tenerife lizard. The Tenerife lizard were those, okay. You want the gold crests, yes. Where are the Tenerife gold crests? Okay, save that one for you. Over there, how many groups do we have? That's the mega group, all right?
It might be easier to be in smaller groups because...
we have about 3 names. Yeah, okay. Maybe you can... Okay.
Oh, that's all right. 7, sorry, I can't count.
Those 7 people there are the Bertholot's pipits, all right? We're running out of names. The Canaries chiefchaffs. That's a kind of loose group over there. And are all of you together in this? We are missing one name.
The La Laguna long-eared owls.
Who are you then over there?
These are the owls.
You're the owls, and who are you? Pumice pipits are those. Yeah, we're missing one name.
Did Atlantic Canaries?
No, those are there.
Ah.
We're missing one name.
No, we gave that one.
Those are there. Okay, so you...
Wait, we're missing a name?
No, you're the yellow and green lizards, yeah. Green-bellied lizards. This one.
No, they have it. They're the long-eared owls.
Is anybody else the long-eared owls?
Who's missing a name? Oh, 2 groups are missing a name.
Okay, so...
Do you want to give yourselves a name?
Yeah, good.
What is it? Could you say it again?
Very good.
Perfect. And do you want to give yourselves a name?
Gofi mode, very good. All right, so we got names.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, you need one mobile phone or one computer with internet connection. I'm going to ask you to go to this webpage here.
So it's polev.com/David Therdeno
Hold on a minute.
538.
Yeah.
We cannot see it.
No, I know. It's being loaded, okay? What? Hold on a minute. One second. Oh, you can write it there? Yeah. Okay, there we go. That's the address over there, okay? paulev.com, David Cerdeno, 538. All right? So we're gonna be asking you questions, okay? And you can ask as many times as you want. You can change your answers. You can debate within your group.
The first thing is it's going to ask you to put in your name. So put in your group name if you can remember it.
If you cannot remember it, make up a new one, okay? We tried very hard.
So did everybody get to access this already? Is anyone having issues? Just give us a shout if you're...
Thumbs up or down if you're not.
Thumbs up, okay.
Up.
Yeah, up.
Okay, we've got lift off. No.
Great. Everybody's in?
Yay.
Excellent.
Right. Okay.
All right. So the first quiz challenge is to give adjectives to describe the cosmic microwave background to the general public. So we'll...
You can type more than one answer, okay? You can type anything that you want, all right?
You can give many, yes.
You can give many answers.
You can give more than one answer. You might want to take a minute to think about it. For the general public.
Yeah, I think we should start giving out badges, and then at the end, whoever doesn't have it gets one. Is it working? ¿Ya estáis poniendo cosas? ¿Ah? No habéis enviado. Vale. Vale, pero las puedes ir escribiendo. Sí, para que vayan apareciendo. Ve escribiéndolas. Okay. My connection is really bad. Okay. It's really, really bad. Don't worry, I'm gonna put...
Do you want to tether it to my phone?
I'm gonna tether. Yeah, I'm gonna tether to mine. 1 second. I've got
Minor technical.
minor technical issues, don't worry. El internet, pero no... Bueno, vamos a ver. Pero estoy con H también. Uf. Ok.
Minor technical issue.
Es que tampoco tengo yo mucho internet, ¿eh? Es que esto aquí tiene una H, ¿sabes? Ok, I'm gonna try again. No. It's been working. ¿Tú crees? No, pero que sean... ¿Tú crees, sí?
Now it's working.
No, it's not working. Yes, but my connection is very bad. I don't have... Okay, hold on a minute. Yeah, but that's all right. Sí. 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 Sí, vamos a hacer eso, sí.
¿Y por qué no cogéis este?
Dime de nuevo. Le he cambiado, sí. No, subida del todo le he bajado un poco porque estaba... Venga, vamos a hacer eso. No. Y además ya hemos acabado todo de presentar. Entonces simplemente con ir a... Vale. Ok. Sí. No, ya no hace falta nada más que verlo. ¿Nos puedes poner? Sí.
Minor technical issue.
Ok, perdona, porque... Muchas gracias. Voy a poner aquí... Muy bien. ¿Esto está en mayúsculas? Ah, sí. Vale. Ok. Y ahora, ¿dónde está? Activities. Muy bien.
You've got 20 responses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ha.
There we
Okay,
go.
here we go.
Okay, this is fun when you see them coming out, but apologies for that, all right?
BAP, smooth, young, soup, blue, dotty, ambient, bumpy, rusty, noise, noisy, thermal, cold, background, rusty, red, seed, static, dotty, thermal,
Ubiquitous.
soup, seed, baby,
Bumpy. Ambient.
Ah, the poll is full. Okay, the poll is full.
Oh, is it full?
Yeah. No
Very
longer
good.
accepting responses.
No longer accepting
Okay.
responses.
You have to be quick. So, what do you think? Any chances of winning a badge, David?
I think to me this was, when describing these complex images to me, and in general, that was the question, especially for the public, no? Because it was the balance between being, again, rigorous or more inspirational. I don't know if there's anyone, any winner here, publicly acclaimed winner.
You want to just keep this as a warm-up, or?
Oh, you go ahead. You choose. Ooh. Which one do you like?
Primordial.
Primordial.
I'm not sure. Maybe we should. Yeah, maybe we should. We keep it moving and see if there's a prize in the next round.
This was a warm-up, okay? This was a warm-up for us, technically. Do you want to choose a winner? Choose a winner. Elige una rápida.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with Muddy. You're completely frozen. Who was Muddy? Who put Muddy? Ah, okay. Let's get you some badges. Round of applause.
Very good. This takes us to the next question in the poll. Again, as you have seen, part of what we're trying to do is to describe what is and what is not scientific outreach, okay? So again, we're not here looking for a definition, but rather for a cloud of words that might relate in some kind to science outreach, okay? You can also vote on on things that people have already said, okay? If you find anyone...
A telltale, mysterious, challenging, insight, communication necessary, fun, dialogue, exciting, erotic. I like that one. Thrilling, making a story. Erotic is trending. Thrilling, adventurous.
Mandatory, that's Do you want a badge, Olga? You want a badge? You're definitely working for that. Oh, come on, now you have to write that down.
Okay, the poll is full.
But I think you can vote on you can still vote on the words that have come out.
Yeah. So with this one, we can do the badges on the best vote.
On the best vote,
on the people's choice.
I think if you scroll down, you can see. No. If it is a draw, we can leave it.
No, I think it has to go to erotic, clearly. I mean, I think scientific outreach should be erotic.
It has to go to erotic.
Erotic.
Yeah,
Who put erotic?
All right.
Hey, okay, badges.
Una pagada, no?
Yeah, let me do this. Yeah. It's a badge that you win. Congratulations. Excellent choice. Take a badge.
So you have to be very quick while the other group is still busy receiving their prize.
Oh.
But again, think of the audience for scientific outreach. Grandma, yeah.
Everyone, scientists, geeks, SpongeBob, beings, your mama.
Flat earthers. Is anyone including politicians here?
Idiots.
Oh, idiots.
Kids, cats. Did I see cats? A cat.
Flat
Grandma.
earthers.
Curious. Australians.
Especially.
Pigeons, creepies, beings.
Very good. Paul's full.
You're gonna have to choose this one, David.
I'm gonna choose grandma because that was probably my first audience as well. So yeah. Say again, grandma. Who's there and there? Okay. Do you already have the badge? Yeah. Okay.
Congratulations, a badge for you.
Oh, there's grandma. Okay, so.
Badge for you.
Very good.
Badge for you.
Moving on a little bit on personal experiences. Okay, who have you shared your research with beyond the scientific community? Oh, how? Sorry, who? No, how? Drunk. Yeah. Sorry, how? No, who?
Drunk.
How?
How?
Drunk.
How? Speaking, pub.
Drunk. I think we've all done that one.
Yes. Stoned. It's going downhill. Unwillingly.
Unwillingly. Uh-huh.
Dreaming. Oh, that's quite nice.
Dreaming is good. Yeah, dreaming is good.
I don't. Also.
Pole dancing. Oh my God.
Pole dancing, nightclub.
Okay.
Outreach talk. Yeah, I mean, we were hoping for this to inform some of our thinking, but we're limited.
I mean, drunk is
Facebook comment. Poll is full and no longer accepting responses. Insistence. Oh, insistence is cool. YouTube.
Yeah.
Videos. Tinder date.
Did it go well?
Podcast. Misunderstood. Erotically.
TikTok. All right, okay.
pillow talk, singing.
You're going to choose this one.
I get to choose it.
You get to choose this one, yeah.
This is going to be tough. I thought dreaming was good, actually. I like
dreaming, yeah. Who was dreaming?
Hey, dreaming!
Nice. Hopefully there's
enough badges.
revolutionary. Well.
Is this your team? You one for each, are you? Yeah. I think that's nice. You have... You're missing some? Yeah.
I think it died again.
Oh, no?
Did it die again? I think this has crashed. Got it. How far are we now? Yeah, we got this one.
One more.
Yeah, let's see if it works now.
There we go.
Now. Okay. So this one specifically relates to that discourse that we were having midway through the talk, okay, whether or not, or how important it is to maintain rigor or being true to the data when communicating your science, okay? You can click anywhere on the screen. Ya, nos queda una y con esa yo creo que ya acabamos. Yo creo que ya bien. Bueno, vamos a ver uno de estos que lo defiendan. Y si no se han llevado un badge, pues se lo llevan. ¿Te parece? ¿Lo has puesto? Ah. Sorry. Uf.
Ah.
Sorry, you can still change, okay? Now by saying, we're trying to avoid the sociological effect of seeing where everybody was. Oh, no. Oh, who was there? You cowards. Who was over there? Okay, very good. People are moving. Right. Yeah, intermittent.
You're going to choose the winner for this one, David.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
you might want to ask some backup questions.
I'm going to choose the winner. So I'm gonna need to hear from whoever wrote strongly disagree on the leftmost. Who are those? Who was that? Okay. In like 30 seconds, defend your position. Very good. Now, there are two here. One of them strongly agrees, and the other one even more strongly agrees. All right. So, who's the rightmost, if you know more or less? Oh, you as well. You got it covered, right? It's like, yeah, we're getting a second batch.
Yeah. What about the ones right in the middle? Yeah. Can you talk to your choices?
Well, I think we're going to discuss that if you focus too much on the data, you might lose the message. And I think the message is, the message of your data is more important than the data itself. So it should be somewhere in the middle where mostly
You're choosing the badge winners in this instance.
You already had a badge. The Atlantic Canaries already had a badge. You also got a badge
They don't
already?
have a badge.
Then I think
I think they get a badge. I think they defended that very well. Congratulations. Badges for you.
And I think just to finalize, this is the last question, okay? Again, we've been trying to establish this connection between arts and science.
Are you in this group?
Where's the scream? Oh, scream. The scream. The scream. That was a good one. Guernica, okay. Oh, Interstellar, yeah, Interstellar. Crónica de muerte anunciada. 7 años en el Tíbet. Well, it is artwork. It is
Yeah, emojis have their place in the world.
de pietà. Who's abstract art? What part of your research reminds you of abstract art? Bueno, of research in
Cave art.
Cave art. Who is that? What's is what? It's about us. Okay.
100 Years of Solitude.
I don't want to know about that one. Okay.
Oh, the Melting Clocks of Dudley. Yeah. It's a nice one. Surrealist.
White painting.
White painting.
Is that inflationary? Who's white painting?
The body. The body.
The Myth of Sisyphus.
Dali.
I don't know if there's any other that you might want to hear them from. Or Starry Night. Mondrian. Who's
Mondrian.
how so?
Well, because of the scheme, I mean, yeah, the boxes remembers me the scheme, and we always need a model or a scheme to look, to look reality.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we always like things that have their shape, and we need a way to measure them to understand them in general. So, like in our, we always have agreement.
Okay.
Like to see reality.
Okay.
Is there any group without a badge?
Yeah. This
Okay,
group.
tell us what did you answer at the back?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't really hear.
100 Years of Solitude.
100 Years of Solitude.
How?
And here, which ones did you have? Oh.
And we're missing this group.
And this group as well. You don't have a badge yet. Unbelievable.
And Guernica. Guernica?
You're going to have to choose this one, I think.
I think probably could be
A shared prize.
a shared prize.
If there's
right?
enough badges.
Because this is going to be difficult, right?
Okay.
I think we're sharing this prize, okay? This one was difficult. I think it was too many excellent choices.
Did you get one?
Let me take it to the back and you finish this, okay? Yeah. Olga. Claro, hombre. Ahora paso.
Okay.
I mean, of course, yeah, this is
So I think we're getting too close to the end of our session. I think that is all of the quiz questions that we had for you, but we just wanted to see if there were any other questions that you had for us, if there was anything from what we shared today that you wanted to ask about, or if there were any comments. Yes.
So many times artists use a kind of protest or something, or like to put in our faces like the bad things that we do. Have you seen or done anything with like in the science way? I mean, using art to face as the scientists some things that we do not do correctly or that we could improve?
Thank you. This is an interesting question. Actually, it's reminding me of the things that have been in the news recently of people throwing eggs in museums, climate protesters doing this kind of intervention to make a point about climate change, which I think is, you can have a kind of clear opinion about that. I certainly haven't been throwing eggs in the Institute for Theoretical Physics. I think that I think one thing for me that's been interesting is perhaps thinking about how actually discourse within art is often maybe not shared so publicly or shared in different ways. So I feel like I'm actually learning about ways in which artistic research might need to circulate in other ways as a kind of it's sort of having that effect on me. I don't think I have a specific answer for your question in terms of I don't think that I have maybe got to that stage, but I think that by putting the work that I've been doing onto the YouTube channel of the Physics Institute, that for me has been that's felt like a kind of intervention for me, in the sense that it's not an audience that is expecting that kind of work to appear there. And these videos are like 2 hours long. So I think that for me has been surprising that there's been so many views of those videos. And then also the comments are kind of some of the, you get all kinds of comments on these platforms, obviously. But that for me has been giving some information. But I don't know. I think that I'd need to probably think about that a bit more and maybe have a longer time to respond. But I've been kind of quite pleasantly surprised, I guess, in terms of the ways that the people that I've encountered and people that I've worked with have wanted to engage in the project and its ideas. I don't know if David had anything to add to that point.
I think that what I've seen, at least in part of the things that we've done, is that you were saying, for example, how some of the things that we are doing in science communication could be translated or transported to, or inspire some of the things in artistic research communication.
Yeah.
I think for me it was a question of methodologies as well. No, I mean, it made me question whether the methodologies that we were insisting too much on, or the frameworks that we were probably using or maybe overusing, could be changed in a different way. And to me, for example, it was a question, when that particular question on how much do we value rigor or inspiration, if you want, when communicating science. I'm not sure that I was too much on the left before of that graph, for example. I think, and you can see, for example, in the other piece that we prepared, that I think also through this project, I think it made me think of different ways of doing research. Okay, I mean, that also, don't misunderstand me. Okay, that whole spectrum was correct in a sense. I mean, there's no incorrect answer there, but it made me think that the spectrum was broader than what I thought originally there was. Okay, that there is nothing that is not allowed. Okay, in a sense.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting, and I think that we will need more projects like yours. So, great idea. I have a question that is a bit related to the scale that you were showing before. I guess that one can do this kind of activities with different purpose is, if we want to speak about purpose of art. I guess art can also be without purpose per se, right? But when you do this kind of thing, do you think more about trying to communicate something to an audience, like trying to teach them some scientific concepts, or do you think more about like entertainment? What is where do you place yourself? I don't know if you see my question.
Thank you. That's a really good question, and thank you for your comments as well. Actually, we nearly had one of the polls that was going to be around is scientific communication about teaching, because I think I think it's a really important but maybe problematic question. I think personally for me, and in this project, I'm more interested in the idea of an experience, something that you can experience that is perhaps not specifically trying to teach somebody something, in the sense that I don't necessarily believe in a certain direct form of communication, that I don't think that somebody listening to this piece about composing dark matter is going to come away and be like, now I know it. It's not baryonic. It's great. You know, that's not. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that they have. It's a different type of way of engaging that is more sensorial. That is also a type of knowledge, a type of learning. But it sits slightly different to what we might conventionally think of as how. Teaching or communication, it's like a kind of embodied knowledge, if you like. That is something that is quite a kind of common terminology within arts and humanities, but it means that it's something that is felt, or kind of intuition. So I think that's really where I sit. And communication, I guess, I think that there is perhaps what it does is doesn't necessarily communicate the specifics of something either, but I think it can then inspire curiosity, and then that might lead someone to then go and attend a scientific talk or something like that. That might just, I think that sense of bringing people in at different levels and from different angles for me is what was interesting and that I'm kind of invested in ultimately. Thank you. Olga and
in some sense, I think that the work you are doing is great because somehow you are motivating, the curiosity in people, right? I mean, it's an alternative, it's a different way of motivating curiosity because sometimes people read this outreach stuff in the newspaper and things like that, but it's not the same if you try to motivate curiosity on dark matter, for instance, using the way you are doing it, right? It's completely different, and it really gets into other feelings that many people have, right? So I think that is an alternative and a fantastic way to motivate and to promote curiosity and also the interest in science of the general public. So I think that is really, really a wonderful project. Congratulations.
Somebody, wow. Start here and then.
Thank you for your talk. I came with the wrong expectations to your talk today. It is really nice and interesting to see that you use science to create art, but also that art starts to influence science, and so that we get creative ideas, because we also need the creative perspective to think out of the box. Now for me, what I encountered in my life is that I try to talk to different people about science and try to explain to them what we are doing, more or less. You have to make compromises. You never have that long attention span of your audience, more or less. Now I was wondering, is there something similar or a branch in your field where you learn, teach, or try to practice to talk to people with different backgrounds so that it is easier for us, so that we can train to work in this, Right, because I think it's really important to give the people an idea of what we are doing, that it is really hard at the same time, but on the other hand, that they get a grasp of what the idea is. Because if you make it sound too easy, people would think that we don't need many years to make it or to pursue in that. But if it's too complicated, they will not get anything, no rough idea of what the work is at the end. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for your comments. I'm kind of curious about what your expectations were before you arrived, but maybe I'll ask you later. But yes, I think that something I have been thinking a lot about actually has been about what gets communicated in relation to artistic and humanities dialogues, and I think that this kind of a forum and preparing things to share with you today and last week for me has also been kind of a challenge to personally think about how often do I talk. I mean, you're not necessarily a general public today, but last week was certainly intended for a general public, and thinking about I think that I get sort of less opportunities to do that, but I actually increasingly think it's more important. And also looking at the types of scientific outreach that I've come into contact with, YouTube videos, for example, which are really, really incredibly well done. You're talking about very complex, abstract, intangible ideas in very accessible ways, and so I'm thinking about equivalents that I can think of within arts and humanities, and sometimes I'm a bit stuck to find examples. I think maybe a more common way of describing things might be kind of in kind of historical terms, but certainly the work that I'm invested in doing is not necessarily recounting something in a kind of canon or from a historical perspective, but cutting between these types of things. And so I found a couple of examples. I found one, actually a philosopher who works at the department in the Autonomous University, who's doing these YouTube videos where he's describing kind of complex books to a YouTube audience of like 30,000, and he has kind of regular people who are tuning in to listen to him talk about contents of books, which I thought was kind of nice, particularly kind of, Michel Foucault and sort of these type of like dense ones. But I'm certainly, more and more thinking about the sort of necessity of thinking about ways of communicating. Of course, there's always parts of a discourse of any subject specialism that is, you have your own ways within that, but I think that for me, certainly it's an ongoing question. I don't have any specific answers, but I'm grateful for your provocation, and it's certainly something that I'm continuing to consider, so thank you.
Hi, I have a question. Actually, I'm more looking for advice, because in the little experience I had with outreach, I get to the conclusion that it's crucial to have a strong support from your institution, and especially
institution, and second, create an environment in your workspace or among your colleagues that also facilitates that, okay? I have one example in which I don't have advice, okay? Because every time I give advice to people, it's gone very wrong, okay? But I can tell you something that we did at Durham University that worked very well, okay? And that was starting, well, I mean, you cannot force everyone to talk to the general public if they don't want so. I don't think that that's good. I don't think that there's an obligation for everybody to do so, okay? That's the first thing. But there are many people that are actually interested, and especially among the young people, when they start working towards their PhD, they have a natural urge to also tell other people what they are doing. In Durham, when we were preparing for this Royal Society Summer Exhibition, we made sure that everybody was engaged from the beginning, that we opened the call to everybody in the Institute and made that a completely horizontal working environment, where irrespectively of whether you were a professor, PhD student, or whatever, your opinion was valued, and essentially you were involved in the decision making and in the how things were actually going to work. Those people that were more experienced helped preparing the people that had never done it before, and we also had runs with or places in which we were showing the experiment to a fewer amount of public that some other people used as training, okay? So I think training was important. Support from your peers, that was implicit there because it was a group working for it. And there was continuity because that was a punctual event in time, but we also used it to create some kind of environment in which the new people that were joining every year, some of those would integrate into that research or outreach kind of activities. So to me, it was, I think, again, I don't have advice, okay, but things that worked for me were engaging people, trying to make that horizontal, not making an obligation. And ultimately also, everybody was, I think they were feeling that they were valued, hopefully. Okay, and we were starting from not having absolutely anything there. Okay, we had an outreach, not an outreach, but we had a communications office that was completely. I mean, it was like coming from the 90s. Okay, their idea of making a video, a promotional video, was just to have you sitting down on a table and just speaking to the camera. Okay, so they had to. We couldn't start from the official kind of channels. We had to start it somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, that's my experience, but maybe you can add something.
What I found working at the Institute for Theoretical Physics this year is the absolute kind of privilege of having someone who's dedicated to doing the videos, the YouTube videos there, and who's also on hand to take photographs and to document what the physicists are doing, but also the other types of activities that are happening. And this is a resource that is, I don't find that really in any art school that I've worked in or any university in the UK that's been so forthcoming with their support, and also so kind of crucial in helping to make those things very easy. I think it's really important to have resources to invest in people who have the skills to do things that you know, you're all very busy with your writing your papers and doing your investigation, and so you need that kind of ancillary support that can then push your work to the next level and put it in contact. So I think it's also about having the infrastructure and insisting in having the infrastructure in your center to be able to employ people who have specialisms in that area. I think that is really crucial. Yeah.
You're gonna do a video yourself.
Yeah.
I think you cannot get the same quality, and also you cannot do everything. You're already doing a lot, so I think that is also very important.
If I may add something as an external observer, I mean, the Instituto de Física Teórica is a role model, at least for Spain, in the sense that they have, you know, maybe you already know, they have a YouTube channel, they have. Yeah, we are trying. I mean, we have a plan to try to do it, but it's very hard, and I guess that offline we can always learn from their experience, because it's amazing. I mean, they have hundreds of thousands of some, you know, tens of thousands of views. Sometimes even there are videos about the string theory which they reach 1 million views. Yeah. So it's awesome. And you know, you see videos about instantons, no, about all the type of more complicated physics, well produced, and they are well viewed and well received by a community. You know?
It was a long process. Okay, that didn't come up in 1 year. Okay, that's.
No, but yeah, but you have to just one thing. I mean, the super nice thing is that in these videos of YouTube, that IFT answers, right? IFT responder, right? There are PhD students, postdocs, any senior, junior. So all of them are participating, and then this is how things work. If everyone gets involved, everyone who likes it gets involved.
Everyone who likes
if the outreach is done by 2 people in an institute of 300 people, I mean...
We started, I mean, like I was saying, okay, now what you're saying is the result of at least 2 decades, okay, of work. Okay, because I remember I was very involved in the early stages of these things, around 2007, mostly 2000. And there we were really not that many people, okay?
But that's also the culture that has made possible that Rebecca is a resident artist in the IFT,
absolutely.
and everyone is coming to talk to her, and these projects come up.
That is what happens, yes. You attract other people from also other fields, other disciplines. Because,
Hello. First, I wanted to thank you for the talk, to both of you. I think it was very interesting and a lot of fun for everyone, I guess. I wanted to ask you, like, something that occurred to me when I saw this commentary, like, this is the downfall of science, not you saw in the beginning.
That is you.
Well, it's both, like, how do you address people that, I mean, a YouTube comment you can always ignore, you can always delete, you can always mute. But as well as there are trolls in the internet, there are people who take time to come to outreach events and like, no, this is lie, like the earth is flat, or this is wrong because science should remain pure in a bad sense of the idea. Like, how do you try to make people believe that, I mean, from collaboration, like mostly like good things come, and also like to convince them like this is like actually good for everyone? How do you approach that kind of bombers, let's say?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your comment and for your question. I think that I think it's really good for people to have opinions. I think it's really good for people to be able to express those opinions, because I believe that if yeah, that they should be allowed to. So I think I took that comment in kind of a good spirit, and in fact I genuinely take it as a compliment, because I think that it's really hard to bring science down. It's also not my intention, but if that's a kind of side project, then maybe maybe that's an interesting thing. I think that. Yeah, I think it's good to have spaces for dialogue and spaces for tensions within dialogue. And so if somebody is coming with a very different opinion, then to be able to dialogue with them. And even if they still leave believing that the world is flat, or holding on to their steady state theory, or whatever they want to really hold on to, then that is okay. But at least you have had a space and a time to talk with that person, to have an exchange. I don't necessarily believe you can put too much pressure on those situations in terms of really trying to change somebody's mind or their opinion.
Sure. I mean, as long as there's common ground, like, can be discussed. But,
yes, but I think that the worst situation is when those things can get shut down, or there is not space to hold those tensions. And that's what I mean by agonism, which is this kind of holding a tension and a space for those differences, because I think that we're all very individual. We all have our own backgrounds. We come from very different ways of thinking, and if you don't agree, that is okay. But we can agree to disagree, and then we can still be we can still be in dialogue.
No, in my experience, like, whenever I see that someone, like, it doesn't want to change, really, like, okay, I stop talking, because it's a lot of time from both of us. I was thinking, like, maybe like some ways to not persuade, but like open their mind to new possibilities. That would be the
badges. No, I don't. Sorry, that's a very silly answer. But no, I think that to be able to dialogue and to be able to keep a dialogue, I think that is the best way. So maybe the first time you have a conversation and then they go away and they still want to, but over time, I think that the repetition and different ways of, and trying different tactics, different forms of engaging with people. I don't know if David, you wanted to respond to that.
I don't think I can add anything that makes more sense than what you've said. But also, I think this idea, I mean, this brings me back a little bit to the question of, I think it was probably you that mentioned teaching, okay, when doing outreach. Okay, to me, this is not about teaching, it's about facilitating learning, okay? And that's as much as a goal as I have. You're facilitating learning, and to learn, you need to receive information, but you also have to have some predisposition to be open about some questions, okay? Sometimes that doesn't happen, okay? But then that you cannot either force it, and you also cannot be affected by it, okay? So I think that's the only thing that I would add to it.
Okay, Carlos?
Oh, okay, never mind. I'll try to be quick. Thank you. It was very new for me as well. I was just trying to, so at the end, you're using art as a way to communicate somehow, right? So there is like this discipline, which is science, which is maybe opaque or maybe not so reachable by most of the public, and then you're just trying to establish some communication bridges, you know, between the two communities somehow. I was thinking whether, you know, have you considered extrapolating this or generalizing this to other disciplines beyond research? Like, I don't know, I cannot think of much, but maybe philosophy. I mean, have you thought of maybe you know, art trying to bring philosophy to the public, or some disciplines which might, you know, remain abstract or, you know, not so trivially reachable by the public?
Thank you. Yes, it's a very good question. I mean, there are sort of elements of, people who I know who work in relation to philosophy and performance and philosophy, and thinking about how theatre can be related to philosophy in really quite compelling ways. Personally, in a previous project, I was working with people who are policymakers on the coast of the UK, and in particular, they're making policy decisions and creating reports around the types of things that you might find on the coast of the UK, mainly talking through numbers and through statistics and through questionnaires. And so I've worked with them to suggest that actually there's other ways of describing what happens on the coast that come through language, that come through rhythm, that come through text. And that for me was quite interesting in the sense that I don't know if they will change their methods. I don't know if they see the value in doing things otherwise, but I can see some limitations in how these this kind of way of doing policy can be kind of problematic. And I've also worked with a group of people working in biodiversity who wanted to, actually we wrote a report together around future values for biodiversity. So they were again using kind of statistics from their research, but they wanted me to write a paragraph giving examples of artistic research, different types of works that are suggesting future values for biodiversity. And actually that report is now publicly available. And in fact, we won a prize, the Gabulkian Prize for Humanity, yes, in 2022, which is actually this year. So I think there are, yes, so there are different ways, and I haven't directly, considered working with philosophers, but at the moment I'm interested in physicists and physics, but who knows? Thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks. Any more questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I wonder what are the improvements, and specifically for you, because for art I didn't know anything. But what are the improvements that you are feeling doing this joint? I mean, maybe you feel that you catch more ideas, or you feel less stress, you enjoy your work, or maybe the opposite, because you have more work, so maybe you don't have time to do the research. What are your feelings?
Thank you very much, and I liked all that you mentioned, because also coming back to the previous question, also on the left side of the. These activities don't come for free for us, okay? We do them mostly because we like them and we also like to communicate and so on, but they also are taxing in the sense that the time we devote to these activities is also time that we take from something else, all right? So that, it's absolutely true. Something I've noticed though, or let's say something that came directly from this project or from this whole many years of thinking through different ways of communicating science. I think it's probably. Let me try to. I'm trying to find a way in which it is a bit more clear. Okay, but I think I've abandoned a little bit this idea of having to teach, of there being a hierarchy between I know this thing and you don't know it, and therefore I'm going to make you learn it. Okay, to what I said before, which is changing a little bit the philosophy and saying, okay, I'm going to try to facilitate learning, but also trying to open up a dialogue, okay, which is whatever you're telling me about the way you're understanding this, I'm also trying to be receptive to, okay? Obviously, I mean, that doesn't apply, or there's a limit to which that applies if you want, okay? Our language in physics is mathematics, and there are things that we cannot change there, but either my interpretation or the way that I'm telling you some things should be responsive to the way you're understanding them, in a sense. And that's a message that I've also taken in my classes, okay? That I'm also, I see that it's also permeating to the way that I'm teaching physics students. So I believe that this is valid in that sense. Again, that doesn't mean that you're losing rigor, because that's something that you can still maintain, while, in my opinion, at least, be more perceptive about the whole communication that the learning process, I think, implies, okay? That's what I think. So to me, the outcome of this has been, I believe, in making me think more about the learning process, I think.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, so let's thank Rebecca and David again. So now we wrap up. Just to remind you that there will be the second seminar on quantum mechanics by the Foundations of Quantum Mechanics by Malcolm Longueur today in the Department of Physics. Many of you were already in the building yesterday, and yeah, it should be at 6:30. So I will be walking him up in 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so. And yeah, see you tomorrow at 9 again. Have a good evening. Ciao.